think about World War II. What comes to mind? D-Day, dogfights in the sky, maybe Rosie the Riveter building bombers. We see the bravery, the sacrifice, the sheer industrial power. But there's a hidden story, a secret weapon that's rarely talked about. Yet it was arguably the single most important factor in the Allied victory. It wasn't a super bomb or a new kind of tank. It was a revolutionary financial strategy that transformed America into the arsenal of democracy and changed the world forever. So, what was this secret? It was a 1-2 punch of financial genius, a revolutionary accounting trick called cost-plus contracting, supercharged by a geopolitical masterstroke known as Lend-Lease. Stick with me, because this is the story of how the Allies didn't just outfight the Axis, they outfinanced them. Let's rewind. In wars before WWII, governments usually bought weapons from companies at a fixed price. Sounds logical, right? But it was actually a terrible system. Imagine you're a factory owner. The government wants you to build 1,000 new experimental tanks. You have to guess the cost. If you guess too high, you might not get the contract. If you guess too low, you could go bankrupt. Faced with that risk, what do? You play it safe. You build slowly, you don't innovate, and you charge a premium. The result, for the military? A slow, expensive trickle of often outdated gear. Then WWII happened, and the U.S. government flipped the entire script. They walked into the boardrooms of Ford, General Motors, and Boeing and made an offer that was impossible to refuse. They said, "Build us the planes, the tanks, the ships we need. Don't worry about the price. We will cover every single one of your costs, labor, materials, retooling your factories, and on top of all that, we will guarantee you a nice, tidy profit." This was the magic of cost plus. Suddenly, all the financial risk for American industry vanished. The business of war went from being a massive gamble to the safest, most profitable investment in the country. A factory making refrigerators on Monday could be churning out machine guns by Friday, and the U.S. Treasury would pay for the entire transformation. The effect was explosive. American production didn't just increase, it went supernova. The U.S. wasn't just building more, it was inventing a whole new scale of mass production, dwarfing anything the world had ever seen. But making all this stuff was only half the battle. How do you get it to your allies, who are on the brink of collapse? By early 1941, Great Britain was running on fumes. They were paying for every bullet and every can of food with gold, and their vaults were nearly empty. They were just weeks away from financial ruin, which would have meant surrender. This is where the second, even more brilliant part of the plan comes in: the Lend-Lease Act. President Franklin D. Roosevelt knew he couldn't just give Britain billions of dollars. Congress wouldn't allow it. So he sold the American people a simple but powerful idea. He said, "Suppose my neighbor's house is on fire and I've got a garden hose. I don't say to him, 'Neighbor, my hose cost me $15. You have to pay me $15 for it.' I don't want $15. I want my garden hose back after the fire is over." And just like that, the game changed. Lend-Lease allowed the U.S. to lend or lease military equipment, food, and supplies to Britain, the Soviet Union, and China. It wasn't a sale. It was a loan. This brilliant move did two things. First, it took the crushing financial burden off our allies' shoulders. They could stop worrying about balancing their checkbooks and focus all their energy on fighting the war. It kept them in the fight. Second, it was an incredible strategic investment for America's future. It wove a web of economic dependence around the globe, with allies using American equipment, American spare parts, and American standards. It ensured that after the war, the U.S. would be at the center of the global economy, a position of dominance it would hold for the next 50 years. So, when you think about how WWII was won, remember this financial secret. The U.S. government effectively socialized the risk for its corporations, unleashing an industrial miracle at home. At the same time, It acted as the world's bank and landlord, using that industrial output as a geopolitical weapon abroad. It was a perfect, self-reinforcing cycle. We didn't just win with soldiers and steel. We won with an economic strategy so powerful that it not only defeated the Axis but also laid the very foundation for the American century. Thanks for watching. If you found this dive into the hidden history of finance and warfare interesting, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.